Most respected and lowest priced office furniture dealer.
Office Furniture Direct.
Dobar dan. That means good day. TalkCast PDX on the web at talkcastpdx.com. Tuesday, May 3rd. Happy birthday, Gordon. The name of the show is The Bogdanich Perspective, and I'm your host, Paul Bogdanich, and welcome. Episode number 59, and I'm going to call it Chaos. CHAOS. I didn't have time to look up Maxwell Smart and Get Smart. The evil organization in that show was Chaos, but it was an acronym for something, and I can't remember what it was. TalkCastPDX.com is sponsored by Office Furniture Direct, Portland's #1 commercial office and furniture and cubicle dealer. From space planning to design, straight through delivery and installation, Office Furniture Direct takes care of it all. Go visit their website, which is OFD, Office Furniture Direct, PDX.com. Today, May 3rd, kind of ironic. It's World Press Freedom Day, and it's also part of Root Canal Appreciation Week, which is kind of prophetic, I think. In Republican Rome, before 44 BC, this used to be the week of April 28th to May 3rd was the celebration of Florina. It honored the goddess Flora, who was the goddess of flowers and fertility. But that was way back in Republican Rome. I once knew a woman named Flora. Didn't know what it meant at the time. Let's do some fun stuff, or start off with some fun stuff. If you could put up graph number 1, please. This is Tombili. Tombili is a Turkish nickname, and it means like a chubby cat or a dog. Tombili here was a cat, and it was just a street cat, but it used to sit in that position to try and pick up pets and food at the same bench, apparently, all the time. This was in Istanbul, Turkey. Cat got sick and died in August of 2016, and they did a statue, as you can see there. So Tombili is forever remembered in Istanbul. You can take that down. I'm part of TalkCast PDX, and we broadcast over YouTube, which is owned by Google, which means that I have to abide by the content rules, which is a polite way of saying censorship. A lot of things you can't talk about. News is, in a broad sense, I keep saying that the only thing that we can do well is propaganda and print money. Any kind of a problem that shows up, our politicians are convinced that they can print money and throw it at it, and that'll solve the problem. We're getting to the end of that. With some of the mistakes that have been made, I don't know if you read the papers, it's very subtle so far, but everybody is talking about wheat. And, we got a little bit of a bad break. Temperatures in India, I don't know, I have been in the high 40 C, which is 100 degrees, 110 degrees, something like that, all over the entire continent for the entire month of March, in April. And it's projected to continue. But India is the second largest wheat producer in the world, but they're not a large exporter because they use everything they grow for domestic consumption. But with this persistent high heat, their crop yields are going to be down. They missed the planting season over there because it just continues to get hotter as we move into summer. Russia is the largest exporter, and their exports are going to be down because they used to ship out of southern ports, Black Sea ports. Ukraine, their production is eliminated roughly, and they were, I think, the third or fourth largest exporter. France is a big producer, but again, not a big exporter because they use it for Europe. So it depends what happens in Canada and the United States. Now, we had a problem with fertilizer because of these hastily thought out Iraq war sanctions or Ukraine war sanctions. And our yields could be down. And if that's the case, we're just going to have, they'll try and ration it by price. The price will go way up. Everybody here will complain. But people across the north of Africa, Egypt and Algeria and Tanzania and Yemen and Sudan and just all those places will be facing starvation. I don't know whether anybody will notice, because like I say, we're pretty good at propaganda. If we don't show you anything on the news, you may not notice. Anyway, I don't think they can maintain it. I think there's too many real world problems that they're dealing with. Just like yesterday, what happened? Somebody leaked a draft opinion of a pending Supreme Court case. It doesn't represent a final decision, but it's a draft opinion. Apparently, well, it was spoken about, the leak was apparently verified. Mitch McConnell spoke about it on the Senate floor. So you have to assume that the leak is real. It's purported to have been written by Justice Alito, and apparently Justice Alito, at least, thinks that the logical arguments of Roe v. Wade are a stretch and should be modified, at least. Now, whether he has the other four concurring justices, nobody knows. It was a draft, but the point is it was leaked. It was leaked on the same day that Pfizer was forced by the court to deliver 90,000 pages of documents. The initial review of those documents indicate that, well, let's put it this way: on these measures that you can't talk about because they're censored, there's some large concerns. And the only thing we're good at is propaganda and printing money. And so you can anticipate that we're going to continue to do that. And just the way I see it, the condition is it has to be chaotic all the way through summer, all the way to the elections. That's the only thing this Congress does. You elected the same people for 30 years. It's their only expertise. So print money, throw it at a problem, try and make it go away, lie, try and get your votes. And so this potentially, what do they call them? Mostly peaceful riots, disruptions in the food supply, at least here in terms of price, if not shortages, and so on throughout the summer. And the only thing they can do about it is lie, try and control the propaganda. Speaking of which, it's difficult for me to understand, but I'm not a propagandist per se. But I mean, the Biden administration tried to create, or is creating, under the Department of Homeland Security, of all places, disinformation central, to codify and put into government hands what Google and YouTube now do informally. Very difficult. First Amendment to the Constitution of the United States reads, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press, or of the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. And that's the First Amendment to the Constitution. These guys don't care about that. They take the position, well, that it's not Congress doing it. And the law says Congress shall make no law, that it's the president's office that's doing this. And the authority that the president's office has to do this was given to it by the Congress starting basically at the Iraq War or September 11th. They never repeal anything. They grant all, nothing is more permanent than a temporary government program, right? But they pass all these laws. They never revisit them. They never repeal them. They've created an essentially imperial presidency. The guys run amok. And then they're going to get in front of the court and argue that, and who knows with this court, they may even accept that logic that because Congress didn't do it, it doesn't violate the Constitution. And it's back to the same problem. You have the same Congress people for 20, 30 years that don't do anything. They granted this guy this exceptional power. He's arguably abusing it. Do you think they would rein it in? No. If the Republicans win control of Congress, do you think they'll rein it in? No. There was a vote in the United States Senate and the House of Representatives for a Lend-Lease program, okay? A law that was written in 1941 to pass arms to the British and the Russians during the Second World War. Never repealed. Law's still on the books. They never repeal any law, no matter how old or how useless. All right. And they, under the auspices of that law that's still on the books, they're lending and leasing all this stuff, military equipment and whatever, to Ukraine. That does two things. When you lease it to somebody, you're not giving it to them per se, because it's a lease. They owe you the money. Or if you're loaning it to them, it's not an expense on the books of the United States because you're loaning it to them. Now, we all know that the chances of default are 100%. Anything that you send over there under this Lend-Lease program or through the World Bank or the World Economic Forum or whatever, any of these NGOs, they're going to default on and you're going to have to pay for. But they just do this so that they can accomplish their ends and not have it become an election issue, because then they would have to go and authorize the money. And somebody might say, why did you spend $33 billion when this is happening at home and that's happening at home and so on? So they just do it backhanded. Same Congress people. The vote for this Lend-Lease program and to fully arm Ukraine out of whatever it is, 455 or more, 555 senators and congressmen, 10 people voted against it. That's it. Out of both houses of Congress. So I mean, it's the system. The only thing they know how to do is lie, cheat, and steal and propagandize. They're trying to institutionalize the propaganda, through the Department of Homeland Security, and I just see this chaotic, nonstop leaks from here, rumors of this, rumors of that, continuing through at least the election. And I don't think that stock prices will be immune. There's no way that you can devolve into this kind of especially if there's food shortages, devolve into this kind of a situation and support what we've been doing. I don't know, a couple interesting things. Russia, Putin looks like he has cancer, by the way. So, in some kind of surgery with the head of the FSB temporarily in charge of Russia. you had Hungary say that they were paying in rubles. And the EU said that you're not being a good EU citizen. You should boycott Russian energy, blah, blah, blah. And these guys said, we can't. It's the only natural gas we have. And, we'd freeze to death. So we're paying in rubles. And they asked the guy about it, the Hungarian representative. And he said there's 10 countries that are paying in rubles using the same bank that they do, or arrangements that they do. Only 9 of them won't talk about it. His exact quote was, quote, there are 9 other countries using the same payment scheme. But because today the idea of being a good European also means that the leaders of these countries are not honest when speaking either in the international arena or to their own people. The other 9 countries won't say that they are doing the same thing. In other words, just lying and propaganda. And I don't see how. Anyway, I don't expect smooth sailing in between now and the end of the year. I'm going to skip, and if you could put up graph number 4, please, real quickly here. This is just the market. This goes from September 30th to June 30th. You can see yesterday the S&P value was 41.55. Friday of last week it closed at 41.32, and then on March 8 was the prior cycle low of 41.71. So it was below, call it 41.50. It's up a little bit today, a couple of tenths of a percent. If you can take down number 4, and this is what it looks like near term, that's from September 30th. If you could take down number 4 and put up number 5. This is just broader perspective. This graph goes from January 2nd, 2018 to yesterday. And you can see in the middle, there's a big drop, and that was the pandemic. And then you can see, quote unquote, the pandemic premium, where from, call it April of 2020 all the way to January of 2022, the Fed instituted what they referred to as the pandemic premium. And through Fed action, they were pushing the market steadily up, up, up in a channel that represented a return of 30% a year. For the full year last year, 2021, I think it was about 28%. The actual return day to day. If you move a day on either side, it came out to 30%. But if you go with December 31st to December 31st, I think it was 27.5%, 28%. But that's what they did. We've been living off that, print money and lie, right? Okay. So we've been living off that, stimulating the economy, putting cash. The wealthier you are, the more cash it gives you. But at least for people that have a lot of assets, it provided a lot of cash, and they spent it on staying in their homes and apartments and having everything delivered in and so on. But you can see that starting, well, I guess, when it broke the channel, when it broke the prior pandemic channel was back in November of 2021, but by January 3rd, it was right up at the base of the channel again. And then it's been choppy and mostly down ever since, with last Friday being the interim low of 41.32. But that's what it looks like. If you draw a line all the way from where it closed on Friday back to where that intersects the pandemic, premium channel, that's about April 2nd or April 8th, somewhere in that week of 2021. And that's interesting because April 8th of 2021 is when we established our demonstration portfolios. So if we look, you can take that down. So where it is now to where it was then in other words, the losses that have been incurred erased about a year's worth of gains. We established our portfolios about a year ago, so the change is the difference in between when it was going up in the channel and where it is now. And it's 30 stocks up, 24 down. The energy companies over that period of time have done great. Your three biggest winners are ConocoPhillips, ExxonMobil, and Chevron. ConocoPhillips is up 86%, ExxonMobil is up 53%, Chevron is up 53%. Costco, after that, is up 46.4%. A real estate concern called Prologis is up 46%. United Health is up 35%. NVIDIA is still up 28.8%, but that's something. Tesla is up 28.6%. Coca-Cola is up 21.5%, and Apple is up 18%. And then you have Procter & Gamble up 17, Southern Energy, which is your railroad, up 17, Thermo Fisher, etc., Duke Energy, Johnson Johnson, Target, Philip Morris, and so on, all up, call it over 9%. And again, all the gains were when the market was going up, before it started to fall. But this is net, net, net. Your big losers. PayPal down 67%, Netflix down 65%, Boeing Aircraft down 41%, Disney down 41%, AT&T cutting that dividend down 41%, Intel down 36%, Facebook down 36%, 3M Corporation down 27%, Amazon down 26%, Comcast down 26%, JP Morgan down 24%, Adobe down 22%, Verizon Communications down 20%, and so on. So what do you have? By sector, they've harmed the techs, communication services, information technology. In between now and the end of the year, I do not see how the consumer staples and the industrials go unharmed with the damage that's being caused in the supply chain. Lost access to my graphs here. What else? I just don't see it. Speaking of problems, also the way I think about things, can you put up number 3 real quick? I was just fishing around on the internet, and this is a picture of a piece of trash at the bottom of the ocean. It's 4,947 meters deep, which is about 3.1 miles under the sea. It's a can of Spam, obviously, thrown off a ship, resting on the bottom of the ocean. They were moving into the Marianas Trench, and this is which is the deepest part of the ocean, and this is the what they found at the top of the trench. And I was looking at this when it came over, when I saw it. I said, no way. There's no possible way that you can drop a can of Spam into the ocean and that the water pressure, won't damage the case as it crushes it on its way down. And then I, looked at this picture, and I verified that the picture was real. The picture was taken by courtesy National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration, the Office of Ocean Exploration and Research, 2016 Deepwater Exploration of the Marianas. So it's a real picture. So how's that possible? How did that thing get down there without being, the water pressure is enormous. And the only way that that's possible, and this is how I think about things, is the top of the can, the part that you can't see. It's empty. See, they pulled the top off of it. They ate the Spam out of it. And then they threw it in the ocean. So the pressure on the inside as it's going to the bottom matches the pressure on the outside, and it doesn't damage the can. So it's an empty can. And that makes sense. But just speaking of the problems we have, but if you think about things like that, you can take that down. if you think about things in that matter, rather than taking something at face value and think about, well, exactly how are you going to do that? I mean, exactly how. Um, I don't think, well, I'll just reiterate what I keep saying. Interest rates go up, the prices of bonds go down, can't hold those. Uh, the stock market has to, unless there's some extraordinary, blatant, Fed buying the entire market, can't withstand the problems that they've already caused. They're going to continue to lie about it and see if that does it, but I don't think so. Anyway, for the week last week, market was down 3,200. Well, on a portfolio of $100,000, it was down $3,275. If you remember, we bought our stocks a year ago, almost exactly. And our top 30 stocks, capitalization weighted this week or last week, lost 3,770 instead of 3,275. But for the year, they're down $2,500. So on the largest 30 stocks over a year from April to April, you lost money. You lost 3%. Top 30 equal weights down even worse, down $6,300 for the year, down $3,500 for last week. And I sold my portfolio in December, and I managed to collect 17% gain, right? Because I sold at the proper time. But if you're still holding the top three every sector, which is the three top stocks in all 11 sectors, a little broader, you're still up $7,000 for the year, but you lost $3,100 last week. So last week you would have been up 10,000. Now you're only up 7. The 54 stocks, I already went through the year over the year changes. Just for the week, Sherwin-Williams went up 12.2%. The only reason they went down was their supply chain. So they had earnings and they said some positive things. Facebook, the stock is, what did it trade at? It's at $200. A year ago, it was it got as high as 370, I think. But it was trading all through the good times at 350, and then he announced that Meta. So call it from 330 down to 200. It's lost a third, but it got a trading bounce. And then the rest of the stocks were down, up. The winners anyway were up less than 3.5%. MasterCard was up 3.5%. Visa was up 2.4%. And that's about it. The rest of Microsoft was up 1.2%. And then you go into the losers, everybody. Apple lost 2.5%. Chevron lost 2.7%. AT&T lost 3.4%. Berkshire Hathaway lost 3.8%. UPS lost 3.8%. Your real estate concerns lost 4.5%. Google lost 4.6%. Nvidia lost 5%. Bank America lost 5%. Broadcom lost 5.5%. Disney lost 5.6%. JP Morgan lost 5.9%. Intel lost 6.3%, and so on. The big losers, Verizon Communication lost 10.8%. Netflix lost 11.7%. Comcast lost 12.4%. Tesla lost 13.4%. Amazon lost 13.9%. And Boeing Aircraft lost 15.9%. Most of those big changes were earnings related. There was a day when Microsoft reported and Amazon, the week, Amazon reported, Google reported, Microsoft reported, and so on. And the way they referred to it as Amazon shit the bed is what they say. The earnings report was terrible, knocked the stock in 1 week, whatever it was here, 14%. It used to be, it closed, Amazon closed at 2,400, 2,500, call it. And it used to be 3,500 a year ago. So not a third or anything, but, down 20%, call it 15%. So anyway, I think that the problems and the lies and the reality catching up with the lies spreads to the consumer staples, consumer discretionary, industrials, and materials. And I'm bearish on it. I wish somebody in government somewhere would try and make some attempt to follow the Constitution. But that's not happening. All they can do is print money, throw money at things, and lie. It's all they know how to do. We've left them in office for 30 years. It's all the same people. I don't even think, we'll see what happens with the elections, but even if you put the Republicans in charge, with these same guys, I just don't expect anything. I don't see how we make it. You would need a bumper harvest both in Canada and the United States, and no disasters in Brazil, or no weakened crops in Brazil or China. China is one of the largest wheat producers also, but they eat everything that they produce. But I don't. It's looking. I don't see it. I'm still very bearish. Thanks for putting up with me. One other interesting thing. This is an American for you. Go to graph number 2. This is why we have the problems we do at root. Number 2. A U.S. family traveling to Israel, and they didn't name who they were, went and visited the Golan Heights, which is up by Syria. And they found something in the dirt. And they put it in a plastic bag, as you can see, and put it in their luggage and brought it into the main airway terminal there in Israel. And some guy standing behind him in line saw it, started to scream, caused like a stampede of people running away, broken ankle, a bunch of falls, stuff like that. But no charges were pressed. They didn't name the people, but that's a 3-inch shell, from back in the day. This was, it was picked up in the Golan Heights, so it was fired and failed to explode in probably 1967. Long time ago. But they just didn't think anything about picking up. What could possibly go wrong? And they picked up a 3-inch shell and brought it into the airport. And I'm sure that they vote for their same you can take that down. And I'm sure that they vote for their same congressperson and senator religiously for the past 30 years, every bunch of years. Anyway, I'm going to stop there. Our system is failing. We're lying about it. We're throwing money at the problems to make them trying to go away, but we're having a problem. I talked the last couple of weeks about how in the middle of the 19th century, 1850s, you had these people it was clear the monarchies were going to fail. It took them until 1914 to do that. Now that's 64 years from when they started, Hume and Locke and Smith and Marx and those guys. And they started to discuss, what kind of system could come next. But we're almost to the point of having those discussions again because this isn't working. Some things that are very big. There's no way to muddle through. You can't create, the Constitution doesn't mean anything. Congress shall make no law respecting the establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof or abridging the freedom of speech. And they're going to create a Department of Censored Information in the Department of Homeland Security, where they determine what the truth is. So anyway, I don't think the market holds. I don't think we'll see how bad it is societally. Don't expect it to be good. But these people are just a disgrace. We're a disgrace. We voted him in for 30 years. But anyway, we have problems. Thanks. I just don't see it. I really don't. I don't see any way out. Anyway, been the Bogdanich Perspective, May 3rd. Happy birthday, Gordon, again. Yeah, if you're feeling too good, join me next week. I'll talk you down to reality. But TalkCast PDX on the web, TalkCast PDX. Thanks for listening, and do Virginia. That means goodbye.